a todos. How's everybody doing? Welcome back to Seville. Welcome back to La Plaza De Espana. I think I took you guys over here on my first day. In fact, last Monday. Today's Monday. We were here during the day, and it was my first time exploring the city. But now I'm here at night, checking it out, and it looks wonderful. It's part of the pattern I mentioned last night about coming places during the day and coming to places at night, and this is one of those great examples. It's completely different. First off, there's like nobody here, not at all, and it looks amazing. They're just about to close actually, but you could see the basically the water, the rivers, these pools are just completely calm and very, very picturesque. Just a nice place to hang out. Not for too much longer though, because I'm gonna get kicked out in about 15 minutes, maybe sooner. But this place, what's amazing about this particular place is you think it's old. You think this grand, huge thing was built by some Renaissance king that had ridiculous, inconceivable amounts of money to build something like this. But actually, it was built in 1929. It's not that long ago. You don't see buildings made like this in 1929. But there was an architectural fashion to go back to Renaissance style, Baroque. I think they call it like Neo-Baroque or something like that. But that's the architecture. And that's why this place looks a little bit more crisp than something that was built in like the 1500s, for example, 1600s, and maintains a lot of the natural color because, again, it's filled with that gorgeous Spanish ceramics, the yellows and the blues highlighting everything. And it's a beautiful, beautiful place. And I keep meaning to come back here all the time because it just seems like one of those places. It's a big plaza, piazza, if you will, that it just draws you in. You just want to be surrounded by this. And this is the cool thing about coming to Europe, and that is, there isn't really this at home. Not so much, but it's all over the place in Europe, Which reminds me too, people have been asking me, like how I managed to come and work in Europe for, extended periods. What's the deal? How long can you stay? And as it turns out, it's kind of it's relatively simple. If you're from like North America, Canada, the United States, or even now the UK, if you're coming to Europe, most of Europe encompasses the Schengen Zone, right? It gets complicated because some people are participating, some people aren't. Some of them are in the European Union, some aren't. So let's just say, for simplicity's sake, the Schengen Zone. And just kind of assume that most of the countries are, at least on the western side of Europe, are involved. You get to stay here visa-free for 90 days. And then you have to leave the zone for at least 90 days, and then you can come back. Technically, you can stay here for 90 days within 180 days. And like I said, it gets a little complicated like that. Like you can jump in and jump out, so within that, but basically it's 90 days, and then you have to leave for 90 days. And it's really cool, because that's exactly what I'm taking advantage of, right? Is coming here, staying my 90 days, 28 days in Seville, 28 days somewhere else, 28 days somewhere else, and then there's this little gap of extra days, and I throw in like a little mini stay, which I'll tell you guys all about when I get there. It'll be fun to guess and figure out those stops. But yeah, I'm staying in 3 more places on this trip, based on the Schengen visa that allows me to stay here for 90 days. It's not bad. The reason why all those visas are the way they are is because they're worried that you're going to come and you're going to work here and you're going to take somebody's job and that. And so what's been happening worldwide now is more of these digital nomad visas are available. And I'm really, really looking forward to starting to take advantage of those. Usually they let you stay in a place for about a year, and you can renew, sometimes up to 5 years, and travel within that particular country. Some of the innovators for the digital nomad visas are like Croatia, which would be an amazing place to stay. Portugal has a really fancy one. They have like communities out in the Atlantic Ocean, in those islands out there, which I think would be fantastic to stay. And visas for people who are working remotely, like myself. Usually more oriented towards people who like own their own businesses and that, as opposed to being an employee, but it gets complicated. We don't need to get into all that. But the big countries, Spain, Italy, the Netherlands, France, they're all trying to come up with ways of getting people, getting professionals into their country who aren't taking other people's jobs, have a job and are able to sustain themselves, and then live and work in the country. Estonia is another place that is really great with the visas. I think that might be a fantastic trip in the summer. But I'm really looking forward to it. Like I said, I'm trying to do this as much as possible. This year I've got 90 days set. Who knows when the next trip is gonna come? Hopefully sooner than later. But yeah, I'm really excited about researching some of these visas. Maybe staying in a country, hopping around a country for a little bit longer. Still staying 28 days in one city and then in another city, but possibly within the same country for a little while. It's exciting. It's really kind of neat when I think about the possibilities. And yeah, I want to keep doing that. The other question that people ask me is, what does a day like this look like? And I'll tell you, it's quite simple. I'm 6 hours away from, 6 time zones away from home, my boss, my job. So I tend to work a little later in the afternoon. And it really works out because even though it's later in the afternoon for me, it turns out I'm the first one in the office, so to speak. We all work remotely. And I get a bunch of work done. I get to interact with people, and then I leave relatively early. And what's cool about that is the way I've set it up is that I wake up in the morning, I go off and I tour the city in the morning, then I put a work day in, right? And then afterwards, I go out, usually I grab some dinner, and then I wander around the streets like now, in this peaceful time of day, and take my photos, and take my videos, and then I go to bed, and I do it all over again. And I think it really works out quite well. Because one of the things that you really have to concern yourself when you're working remotely is you got to get your job done, right? Not only for yourself, but your colleagues, but being a good digital nomad citizen. That's one of the things that a lot of us are stressing now, is this idea of be a good, there's so many articles out there now about how people are being lazy and quiet quitting and all these other silly, clickbaity kind of ideas. But in truth, there is this reputation of oh, well, you're remotely working, so you're not really doing anything. What do you, or you're working from home, or you're really working, that kind of thing. But, and so what we want to do is destroy that myth. I'm actually much more productive out here. And I think it's because of the structure, that whole getting up in the morning and setting a time for me to work, and then getting out and looking forward to the time where I get to wander around a fancy city, right? So get your work done, and you get to go play, and that's really the structure that I've laid out. Plus, with the structure comes a discipline, right? You're getting up at the same time, you're working at the same time, and you're going out and you're playing again at the same time, and I think that's really the secret of success. So if you haven't tried it, I really suggest you should. Because the other thing that most people tell me, or finally, the last thing that most people tell me, is that they could never do it, right? Their job just won't allow them. They don't like working from home and all that kind of stuff, and that's fair. But you'd be surprised. I had a friend recently look at she looked up her employee handbook, and as it turns out, there's a big section there on how much time she could spend working in a remote office somewhere else, partly at home, or where she would live, and partly in one of their international offices. You never know. I've also heard a lot of people trading skills too. Like, if you work for yourself, you can go and do those skills somewhere else, kind of like a student exchange program. I don't know how the visas work with that one though, so you'd have to investigate. But the point is that there's lots of options out there, and you'd be surprised, because the scariest part is coming and doing it. And really what we do is we find these excuses that scare us and say, okay, well, that's a good reason for me not to do it. But they're not actually. They're quite the opposite. They're the reason why you should do it. And that's exactly why I did it, because it's scary and uncomfortable. And the growth potential, your own personal health, it's so, you're exercising those muscles, and you're a better person for it, Plus, you get to hang out here, or Paris, or Amsterdam, or Bangkok, or Sydney, anywhere you like, right? So I hope you'll try it. If you do have any questions about working remotely, how you can get started, anything like that, please leave a comment. I'd love to do more of a video of just answering people's questions on how you could get started. And I've done this quite a bit over the last few years. I could probably help out a little bit, provide a little bit of information, or send you in the right resource, or to the right resource rather. And yeah, that sounds like a great fun idea for these videos. So send me something in the comments. Let me know what you're thinking, what you're curious about. I totally have this place to myself right now. It's amazing. There's one person walking over there. Who could ask for anything more? So clearly, I'm doing okay. I hope everyone out there is doing well. Please take care of yourself. Please think about the adventures you could be on. If you're watching this on YouTube, if you wouldn't mind subscribing, I would appreciate it so much. It's really, really, really helpful. A like, a comment, a dislike if you like. It's all good. But I appreciate you watching more than anything else, and I hope you guys have a great night. And I will chat with you all tomorrow, or hasta mañana, as they say. Good night.